criminal trials later this year.
Sarah Smith reporting there. Now, for more, I'm joined by the former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney, Jeremy Saland. Jeremy, thanks indeed for joining us on BBC News. A fine of more than $350 million there against the former president. You might put into context for us, how does that sum stack up against others awarded for similar cases in the past?
Well, you'd be hard-pressed to find a similar case. So it's a staggering number, even if there was such a case. One thing that Trump's team has made point of, and to a certain extent, there's some credibility about it. You normally see something like this when it's the public who's a victim, not private industry, not banks. So this is atypical for that reason, and it's also atypical because we have the former president. So it's hard to compare, but the number's pretty staggering no matter how you look at it.
Now, Donald Trump has also been banned for 3 years from serving as an officer or a director of any New York corporation. What's that going to mean in practical terms for his business empire?
It really is going to really hobble it, to put it nicely, because now for the next 3 years, he can't. His children are 2 years, but you can't get a loan from a bank. There's a compliance director and a monitor that are in place to ensure and look over any transaction. You cannot operate that company. You can't be that leader, that boss, if you put it in more generic terms, a director to run that company. So if you don't have the ability to be your company, which is Donald Trump's brand, that's who he is that company, it really makes it sort of non-existent. And keep in mind, he can't then just create a second Trump organization and sort of transfer power over to that organization, assets to that organization. It's across the board, so it's hobbling.
Now, he has signalled his intention to appeal. What are his options?
So in New York, he has 30 days to file his appeal, or notice of appeal, pardon me. That's pretty easy. So he'll do that, but an appeal can take not just months, could potentially take years. Does that mean that certain stays can't be put into place to prevent certain things from moving forward that the Judge Engoron has put in his decision as penalty and punishment? No, that could happen, but it's going to take a lot of time, and he's likely going to have to put up some sort of bond. Let's just use 10%, for example. 10% of $35.5 million, part $350 million is $35 million. That's a lot of money. So he's going to have to come up with some dollars. But if he's as affluent and rich and wealthy as he says he is, and this is a collective penalty, then he should be able to find that money. But it's going to take some time. But I would also remind people who are listening, we've heard about delay on these criminal cases. Here, I think he's going to take that opposite approach. He's going to want to push this as quickly as he can.
And what happens if he can't pay the fine ultimately?
I don't think it's what happens if he can't. I think he will. I don't even think that's in his wheelhouse possibility. And why do I say that? Because no matter what you think his wealth is, it's certainly at least that much. He's not going to hide that. And I don't see Donald Trump as that person who's going to cower and wilt away and in the face of something like this, or say he can't make those payments. So I don't see that happening. I see ultimately he'll push it to the end, and he has every right to, just like any other American, any other person. But ultimately, he'll pay that.
And can he use campaign funds for any of this, should he choose to?
No, this is totally separate and distinct. This civil proceeding has nothing to do with anything that while he was serving in office. Likewise, if we looked at the Manhattan criminal case, that's similar too. So ultimately, whatever happens with those dollars, whether that number comes down to $100 million, and I'm making things up, I don't know what it would be changed, if any, he will pay that personally, as well as whomever else is responsible according to the decision.
Okay. Jeremy Saland, former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney, thanks so much for joining us with all of that here on BBC News.